That's deeply unsettling. The recordings of your voice on cassette tapes, predating your birth by a decade, hidden in your late grandfather's house, suggest something far beyond coincidence or mistake. Let's break this down logically and explore possible explanations, while acknowledging the eerie nature of the discovery. Step-by-step analysis. Verify the facts, tapes, and labels. Confirm the dates on the tapes are accurate and not mislabeled. Check for physical signs of tampering or inconsistencies in the handwriting, tape condition, or labeling style. Your voice. Are you certain it's your voice? Voices can sound similar, especially within families. Compare the recordings to known samples of your voice or others, e.g., relatives, dates versus your birth. If the earliest tape is, say, 1970, and you were born in 1980, the timeline gap is significant. Double-check your birth year and the tape dates, e.g., could 1970 be a typo for 1990? Content of recordings. What are you saying on the tapes? Are they conversations, monologues, or something else? Do they reference events, people, or details that align with the labeled dates or your life? Possible explanations. Here are some rational and speculative possibilities, ordered from most plausible to more outlandish. Misidentification of voice. The voice might belong to a relative, e.g., your mother, father, or even your grandfather, with a strikingly similar tone. Family vocal traits can be eerily close. Mislabeled tapes. The dates could be incorrect due to error, reuse of old tapes, or intentional mislabeling by your grandfather. Cassettes were often reused, and labels might not reflect recording dates, hoax, or prank. Someone, possibly your grandfather or another family member, could have created the tapes as a joke, art project, or psychological experiment, using a voice double or early recordings of you misdated, technological anomaly. If the tapes were exposed to unusual conditions, e.g., magnetic fields, they might have picked up stray audio from later broadcasts or recordings, though this is unlikely to produce coherent speech matching your voice, paranormal, or supernatural. The tapes could suggest something beyond current scientific understanding, e.g., time anomalies, premonitions, or spiritual phenomena. Your grandfather might have believed he was capturing your future voice. Time travel or alternate timeline. A speculative possibility is that the tapes originate from a reality where you existed earlier or where time was manipulated. This leans into science fiction but can't be entirely dismissed given the strangeness. Psychological or memory issue. If your grandfather suffered from mental health issues, e.g., dementia, obsession, he might have created the tapes as part of a delusion, possibly using a voice he imagined as yours. Next steps to investigate. Analyze the tapes. Have a professional, e.g., audio forensic expert, examine the tapes for authenticity, age, and voice identification. They can check if the tapes match their labeled dates. Cassette brands have manufacturing timelines. Transcribe the recordings to identify patterns, references to specific events, or clues about their origin. Research your grandfather. Look into his life, hobbies, or beliefs. Was he into technology, occultism, or experimental audio? Did he have access to recording equipment in the dated years? Check for diaries, letters, or other hidden items in the house that might explain his motives. Family history. Ask relatives if they know about the tapes or similar oddities. Did your grandfather mention anything unusual about you or the family? Investigate if anyone else in the family had a similar voice or was recorded by him. House history. Research the house's past. Were there other occupants or events that might connect to the tapes? Preserve evidence. Store the tapes safely to avoid degradation. Digitize them to preserve the audio and share with experts if needed. Emotional and practical considerations. This discovery is likely disturbing. Take care of your mental health. Talk to a trusted friend or therapist if it's overwhelming. Decide how far you want to pursue this. Some mysteries remain unresolved, and you may need to set boundaries for your peace of mind. If you suspect foul play, e.g., someone creating the tapes to manipulate you, consider involving authorities or a private investigator, though this seems unlikely based on the information provided. Speculative context, without specific details, e.g., what's said on the tapes, your grandfather's background, the mystery leans toward the uncanny. If the recordings reference events from your life or future, it might suggest your grandfather had an obsession with you or believed he was communicating across time. If the content is generic or nonsensical, it could point to a psychological or technical explanation. The hidden floorboards suggest secrecy, implying your grandfather knew the tapes were unusual or sensitive. Immediate actions. Listen to a few tapes. Note the content, voice clarity, and any background noises. Do they sound like they were recorded in the labeled era, e.g., analog hiss, period-specific sounds? Check the house. Look for more hidden items, e.g., notes, equipment, that might explain the tape's purpose. Talk to family. Discreetly ask older relatives about your grandfather's habits or any strange family stories. Consult an expert. If you're serious about solving this, find an audio historian or forensic analyst to date the tapes and analyze the voice. The tapes beneath the floorboards. Part 2. The air in the attic felt heavier than usual, thick with dust and the weight of secrets. I sat cross-legged on the creaky hardwood, a flashlight in one hand and the first cassette tape in the other. The label read, March 3rd, 1970, in my grandfather's meticulous handwriting, sharp, slanted, like he'd pressed the pen too hard into the paper. I was born in 1980. 10 years later, yay. Yet, the voice on the tape, the one that had sent ice down my spine last night, was unmistakably mine. I'd only listened to the first minute of that tape before slamming the stop button on the old cassette player I'd found in the garage. My voice, my cadence, my slight tendency to clip the ends of words, reciting something about a park, a swing set, and a red balloon. It was mundane, almost childish, but the normalcy made it worse. How could I be speaking on a tape from a decade before my birth? I took a deep breath and slid the tape back into the player. The attic was silent, except for the faint hum of the house settling and the occasional creak of the pines outside. I hit play, and the balloon floated higher over the trees until it was just a speck. I wanted to chase it, but you told me to stay put. You always said that, didn't you? Stay put, kiddo. My voice, clear as day, paused. Then a faint chuckle. You're listening to this now, aren't you? Wondering how this is possible. Don't be scared. Just keep going. I froze. The words felt like they were spoken directly to me, now, in 2025. The tape hissed for a moment before cutting to static. My hands shook as I ejected it and grabbed the next one, labeled April 15th, 1971. I hesitated, then pressed play. This time it was me again, but older, maybe my current age, mid-30s. The recording was different, less playful. The house creaks at night, doesn't it? You've noticed it too. Check the third step on the staircase. There's more there. A pause, then quieter. He didn't mean to scare you. He was just trying to understand. I stopped the tape. My heart pounded. The third step on the staircase? I hadn't told anyone about the tapes yet. Not my sister, not my mom, who barely spoke about Grandpa after his death 5 years ago. The attic felt too small now, the shadows too long. I grabbed the flashlight and the stack of tapes, each labeled with a date from 1970 to 1975, and headed downstairs. The staircase to the second floor was old, oak steps worn smooth by decades of use. I counted as I descended. 1, 2, 3. I knelt and ran my fingers along the edge of the third step. It felt solid, but there was a faint seam, almost invisible unless you were looking for it. My nails caught on a loose corner, and with a gentle tug, the board lifted. Beneath it was a small metal box, rusted at the edges, locked with a tiny padlock. My stomach churned. I didn't have a key, but the lock looked flimsy enough to break. I grabbed a screwdriver from the toolbox in the hall and pried it open. Inside was a leather-bound notebook, its pages yellowed but intact, and a single Polaroid photo. The photo showed me, or someone who looked exactly like me, standing in the backyard of this house, holding a red balloon. The back of the photo had one word scrawled in Grandpa's handwriting. Proof. I opened the notebook. The first page was dated March 1st, 1970, 2 days before the first tape. Grandpa's handwriting filled the page. It started last night. The voice came through the radio, clear as a bell, but it wasn't a broadcast. It was her. My granddaughter, the one who isn't born yet. I recorded it. I don't know how, but I did. She spoke about things she couldn't know, things I haven't told anyone. I hid the tape under the floorboards. If anyone finds this, they'll think I'm mad. Maybe I am. I flipped through the pages, each entry more frantic. Grandpa wrote about hearing me through static on his old ham radio, a hobby he'd picked up after Grandma died in '68. He described setting up microphones, trying to capture the voice again, convinced it was a message from the future. He mentioned the park, the swing set, the red balloon, details that matched the first tape. By 1973, his tone shifted to obsession. She's warning me about something. I don't know what, but I have to keep recording. The tapes are for her, when she comes. The final entry, dated December 25th, 1975, was short. I saw her today, in the yard. She held the balloon and looked right at me. Then she was gone. I'm stopping now. It's too much. The box is under the stairs. Forgive me. I clutched the Polaroid, my mind racing. Had Grandpa been delusional? Had he mistaken someone else for me? But the voice on the tapes, the details, it was too precise. I glanced at the staircase, half expecting to hear my own voice echo from nowhere. I decided to listen to one more tape, labeled October 10th, 1975. My hands trembled as I inserted it. This time, my voice was urgent, almost desperate. "You're close now. The notebook, the photo. You've found them. Don't stop. There's a reason you're here. Check the basement behind the furnace. He hid it there for you." The basement. I hadn't been down there since moving in. It was a damp, cluttered space, full of old furniture and boxes I hadn't touched. I grabbed a crowbar, the flashlight, and the notebook, steeling myself. The basement door creaked as I opened it, the air cold and musty. The furnace loomed in the corner, a hulking relic from the 60s. I moved a stack of crates and felt along the wall behind it. My fingers brushed something smooth, a wooden panel out of place against the rough concrete. I pried it open, revealing a small alcove. Inside was another cassette tape, unlabeled, and a folded letter addressed to me by name. My breath caught. I opened the letter, my hands unsteady. "Dear," your name. "If you're reading this, you've found the tapes. I don't know how or why this happened, but I heard you years before you were born. You spoke to me, guided me, warned me. I thought I was losing my mind, but the Polaroid proved it. You were here somehow. I hid these things to protect you, to make sure you'd find them when the time was right. There's one last tape. Listen to it. It'll explain everything. I'm sorry if I scared you. I only wanted to understand. Love, Grandpa." I stared at the unlabeled tape in my hand. My heart screamed to run, to leave this house and never come back. But my voice, had told me to keep going. I climbed back upstairs, sat at the kitchen table, and slid the final tape into the player. Click. The tape began to play. Let's bring this eerie tale to a close, wrapping up the mystery of the cassette tapes hidden beneath your late grandfather's floorboards. I'll craft a final chapter that ties together the unsettling discovery, the notebook, the Polaroid, and the unlabeled tape, delivering a resolution that balances the story's uncanny tone with a satisfying conclusion. Since you didn't specify a preferred direction, I'll lean into a blend of psychological depth and subtle supernatural elements, keeping it ambiguous enough to leave room for interpretation. If you want a different tone or specific details included, let me know after. The Tapes Beneath the Floorboards, Part 3. The kitchen was dark except for the weak glow of the overhead light, flickering like it was as nervous as I was. The unlabeled cassette sat in the player, its black plastic glinting like an accusation. My grandfather's letter lay open on the table, his words looping in my mind. It'll explain everything. My fingers hovered over the play button. Every instinct screamed to walk away, to burn the tapes and sell this house. But the voice, my voice, had led me this far. I pressed play. The tape hissed, then crackled, as if the recording had been made in a storm. My voice came through, but it was different this time. Older, weary, like I'd lived a lifetime I didn't remember. "You're here," it said, low and deliberate. "You found it all, the tapes, the notebook, the photo. You're wondering how this is possible, why I sound like you, why he hid these things. Listen closely because I can't say this twice." I leaned forward, my breath shallow. The voice continued. "Grandpa wasn't crazy. He heard me because I needed him to. Time isn't what you think. It bends, it loops, it breaks. You're not just in this house. You're in his story, and he's in yours. He recorded me to anchor you, to make sure you'd find your way back. The red balloon, the park, the third step, it's all you, from a place you haven't been yet. Or maybe you have, and you've forgotten." The tape paused, a long stretch of static that felt like it was waiting for me to catch up. Then, my voice softened, almost tender. "Behind the furnace, there's one last thing. Take it. Keep it. Don't come back here after. This house, it holds too much. Let it go. And when you hear me again, don't be afraid. It's just you, talking to yourself." The tape clicked off. Silence swallowed the room. My hands trembled as I stood, the flashlight heavy in my grip. The basement again. I didn't want to go back down there, but the voice, my voice, felt like a command I couldn't ignore. The stairs creaked as I descended, the air colder than before, thick with the smell of damp concrete and rust. The furnace loomed like a sentinel, its shadow stretching across the wall. I moved the crates again, my crowbar prying at the wooden panel behind it. This time, I noticed a small carving in the wood, a crude outline of a balloon scratched into the surface. My stomach twisted. The panel came loose, revealing the alcove I'd found earlier. I thought it was empty except for the tape and letter, but now I saw something glinting deeper inside, a small silver locket tucked into a crevice. I reached in, my fingers brushing cobwebs, and pulled it out. The locket was old, tarnished, with a faint engraving of my initials on the front. I clicked it open. Inside was a tiny photograph, no bigger than a thumbnail. It showed me, or the person who looked like me, standing in the backyard, holding that damn red balloon. The same image as the Polaroid, but older, faded, like it had been carried for decades. Tucked behind it was a folded scrap of paper. I unfolded it, my hands shaking. It was my handwriting, but I'd never written these words. For Grandpa. So you'll know I was here. Knittin' City. Jig tap it to bake, lock it, slip it for am I. My fingers and clattering to the floor. My mind reeled. Had I been here? Was this some kind of loop, a fracture in time where I'd crossed paths with my grandfather before I was born? Or had he fabricated it all, driven mad by grief after Grandma's death, crafting a story so vivid it felt real? The tapes, the notebook, the Polaroid, they were too precise, too me to be a delusion. But the alternative was impossible. I grabbed the locket and ran upstairs, locking the basement door behind me. The house felt alive now, the creaks and groans louder, like it was watching me. I stuffed the tapes, the notebook, the Polaroid, and the locket into a backpack. The final tape's words echoed, "Don't come back here after." I didn't plan to. The next morning, I drove to my mother's house, the backpack in the passenger seat like a sleeping passenger I didn't trust. Mom was in her garden, clipping roses, when I pulled up. She looked at me, her face tightening as I mentioned Grandpa's house. I showed her the locket, the Polaroid, the notebook. I didn't play the tapes. I couldn't bring myself to hear my voice again. "Mom," I said, my voice cracking, "did Grandpa ever talk about me before I was born? Did he act strange, like he knew things he shouldn't?" She set down her shears, her eyes distant. "Your grandfather was never the same after Mom died," she said finally. "He spent hours in that basement, fiddling with his radio, talking to himself. He'd say things like, 'She's coming. She's already here.' I thought it was grief. But once, when I was a teenager, he showed me a drawing, a girl with a red balloon. He said it was his granddaughter. I laughed it off. 'You weren't born yet?' I swallowed hard. 'Did he ever mention time? Like it was broken?' Mom frowned, then nodded slowly. 'Once, he said time was like a tape. You could rewind it, fast forward it, if you knew how. I thought he was losing it.' Why are you asking this?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. Instead, I hugged her and left, promising to call soon. Back in my car, I stared at the backpack. The tapes felt like a weight I couldn't carry but couldn't leave behind. I drove to a storage unit on the edge of town, rented a small locker, and placed the backpack inside. I locked it, tossed the key in my glove box, and told myself I'd figure it out later. That night, in my apartment, I dreamed of the house. I was in the backyard holding a red balloon, the string slipping through my fingers. Grandpa stood on the porch watching me, his face sad but not surprised. "You'll understand," he said, his voice blending with mine. "You already do." I woke up gasping, the clock reading 3:03 a.m. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, a voicemail, from a number I didn't recognize. I played it, my heart pounding. "Don't be afraid," my voice said, soft and steady. "It's just you, talking to yourself." I deleted the message, turned off my phone, and stared at the ceiling until dawn. The house was an hour away, but it felt closer, like it was waiting. I haven't gone back. I don't know if I ever will. But sometimes, when it's quiet, I hear my own voice in my head. Not memories, not thoughts, but me, whispering things I don't yet understand. And somewhere in a storage unit, the tapes are waiting too.